Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. I don't think there's anybody on this planet who would say, I don't like music. Yeah, never. I never listen to music. It's not for me. Or I don't think anybody would ever say, I don't like looking at a painting. I've never looked at a painting. I just run from them. It's not my thing. I'm talking about the arts and how the arts support us and make us feel. Have you ever thought about how the arts in our world can also be therapeutic and help us heal? We're going to look at that today, especially putting the microscope on a great organization located in Brooklyn, New York. It is the Baltic Street Into Action. That's the name of the organization. And Peter Jampel is the man behind it, along with his board. He joins us today. Hi, Peter. How you doing?
Great. Nice to be with you, Steve.
Great to have you here. Now, when we're talking about what Baltic Street offers and the arts, how do you define the arts connected to Baltic Street?
Well, the arts, I think, is a very personal experience. And I would approach it from the point of view of each person's own connection to what the arts means in their lives. And, as a music therapist, I think it's important to understand that we each have an origin story of where music was located from sometimes the very earliest points in our recollections. And so, as a music therapist, one thing that I have found to be extremely important is to create a musical history, a family musical history of where can we locate music in our family? What role did it play? How did we interact with our parents, our siblings, our extended networks? And what role did music and all the art forms, depending on the constellation of how the arts played out in your own family, how did that impact our growing up? Let me just start with my own story. And, my story is not unusual, but for me, it really brought home that music was more than just a pastime, something that I enjoyed. It's something that brought my family together. Start with my father, who was a musician, became a lawyer, didn't like practicing law, went through many unhappy years, eventually fell into deep depression. And then I picked up his old banjo and I said, Dad, I think I want to play this. And he repaired it. And through my interest in music, I got him back into it. And eventually, we fueled each other's love of music. And my mom, who had a beautiful singing voice, the three of us formed a trio. And we would play music and sing. And it created a sense of connection, of somehow transcending all the difficulties that were occurring. My brother was only too happy to let us sing away and play. Now, I understood from that experience that music was a healing force in my family, a force of expression and connection. And my story is just one story. I know that there are many people who are going to listen to this and are going to think back about their own families and the times that were so important in helping to cope with difficulties, with tensions, with traumas, and music and the arts has that capacity to reach through and bring individuals together and help to find new sources of connection.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Beautifully said. And wow, it immediately brings back memories. I immediately think back to my father who loved listening to music, and I could even tell you the songs that are playing in my head. Lou Rawls, 1976, You'll Never Find Another Love Like Mine. Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs. And I never I never connected his love of music with mine. And 4 years after that song came out, I started my radio career at 17 playing music. And music is everything to me. This is bizarre. I woke up this morning,
Uh-huh.
Guitar Man from Bread, 1972, playing in my head this morning. I'm like, what the blank is going on? I got in my car and
Uh-huh.
I put it on and I played it twice. I don't know what it means. I don't know why it's playing in my head, but songs drop into my head.
Yeah.
But when you think, I'll think about my mom. I'll think of Dorothy Moore, Misty Blue. I would have never thought about that until you just said what you said. So yes, when we think about how music bridges the gap, I have a 16-year-old daughter. She'll get in the car and she listens to, a lot of rap stuff that's out today, which I'm okay with. But then she'll put on a song, like a rock song. I'm like, you like that? She goes, yeah. Where'd you hear that? On a TikTok video. Oh, all right. Well, guess what? Dad used to listen to that, meaning me. So yeah, music, I think we underestimate how powerful music is and what a driving force in our lives in many different areas that it is. And I applaud you for bringing it to our attention.
These associations, Steve, that you have with particular songs and particular memories, they're stronger than we understand.
Yeah.
There are, you can hear a song and all of a sudden you're back there in a particular time with a particular person in your life, feelings that you haven't thought about until that song plays. Now, that kind of deeply embedded power of association can trigger, and now let's broaden the discussion a little bit to different applications of how music works. For people with dementia, those associations come
Mm.
roaring back through the fog and create a instant sense of life, energy, memory, feelings that are stored but untapped. And as that person starts to feel that surge of raw emotion, memory, connection, it creates a huge and powerful connection, first to their own beings, and second to times and places that may seem remote, but all of a sudden are right back. And this is what a music therapist has in their tool belt, which is, I've rarely met a person who doesn't have deep connections to music. It happens, but it's rare. And
I don't want to hang out with those people.
you know
I'm
what?
kidding. I'm kidding, but yeah.
Listen, people who have amusia, which is a
Okay.
disorder
Okay. Didn't know it existed.
where, yeah, amusia, some people find music to be a rumble of discordant sounds, and it is a neurological condition. And,
Wow.
you can call it tone deaf or whatever, but there are neurological impediments that make their connection to music sometimes stressful. So
Wow.
it's not that I
Okay.
wouldn't want to hang out with them. I think it's important to understand the neurological underpinnings of music and the way it connects
Sure.
with,
I was being
with each
facetious
other.
and I didn't even, of course, we've heard that term tone deaf. Didn't know what it actually meant, from a clinical aspect. So yeah, thanks for bringing that to attention. I don't know anybody like that. And I feel for them.
It's a rare condition, but it exists.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about people who actually also have a need to connect with sound and have a hard time. Now, most people have intact capacities for engagement through music sound. That is a structural advantage for a music therapist. So one example I gave you is working with people with dementia, but music therapists work in neonatal intensive care units with infants who are in incubators and parents who use music to create a sound environment that promotes that infant's reduction of isolation and increases a sense of connection to the parent. And it goes on. Children with autism, tremendous advantage working with children with autism in terms of their capacity to overcome and bypass some linguistic and social deficits they have and work with music as a source of connection and belonging. And I could go on and list, and we, in our chats, Steve, will get more specifically into the projects that Baltic Street into Action supports. But there are certain basics in terms of the process in which music and the arts work that I think are important to understand and that help people to tap into, in a deeper sense, what it can offer. And if I may, let me just outline kind of how this thing works. So the first aspect that music and the arts attempts to engage is self-expression. So let's take the neonatal, baby in an incubator. Here you have a kind of inchoate experience of a child in an artificial environment and trying somehow to connect in a deep way to this child's isolation. And music, intonation, the human voice creates a way of tapping into this child's capacity for controlled self-expression. And that music then offers that child a sound environment which is comprehensible and can be reciprocal in terms of its relationship with another human being. That capacity for self-expression is something that is the most basic way in which music can tap into a recognition that there's a way to identify inner experiences through music and sound.
You just brought back a thought
Yeah,
for me
yeah,
in that baby in that incubator. When the baby is in the womb, it's hearing music.
yes,
And
of
not, and
course.
I'm not saying music around, when mom has the radio or something playing. The baby is hearing the mom's music, her heartbeat, the swish is there's a rhythm that's going on there. And we're connected. I never even connected that to what you're saying until now, that we're hearing music before we're even born. And I feel for that baby in that incubator because now it's been cut off. I'm thinking, baby in an incubator, play music. It's something, right? For
Yes,
familiarity, comfortable.
ex exactly. The heartbeat of the mother, the regularity of that rhythm is a profound way in which that child is picking up through the fetal experience of the mother's heartbeat and of the mother experiencing the fetal heartbeat as a synchronicity and mutually reinforcing way of connecting with each other. And that baby is now deprived of the touch and the warmth and the sound of maternal breathing, as well as heartbeat. So absolutely, it is a pre-existing rhythmic connection to the mother, which then re-engages the child and the mother in helping to develop connection and rhythmicity and a sense of interacting with each other. So self-expression. The next process that self-expression leads to is connection, human connection. As we express ourselves and get to be understood by others, we break through the isolation of our individual existence and create a sense of connection and belonging. And belonging is one of the most important aspects of music making. We start with self-expression, but eventually, when we express ourselves and recognize that we're being heard, understood, and responded to, now we have a sense of belonging in music with others. And that belonging creates relationships.
To your point.
Okay. Yes.
To your point. Music is live music, I believe, and I think it came from COVID, is more popular now than ever. It's almost as if the 80s are back, where people went to see live bands. And that connection, what you're describing, it's not even just about the music. It's about people coming together to experience something at the same time. And it's my belief, everything is energy, feeling the energy of the music and the energy of those around you, whether it's inside or outside, whatever it might be. I'll go to see anything live. I don't care what it is. If the genre is not my favorite, I don't really care. If it's live, there's something magical going on there, and I believe you're nailing that by bringing that to our attention. That it's this collective energy that we're all doing the same thing at the same time in experiencing a live performance. Do you agree?
Yes. You know, COVID was devastating in terms of the way in which it isolated people.
Yeah.
And music, I mean, there were great stories, you know, of people playing, you know, music from their balconies and connecting and creating a sense of community. And that word community, I'll come back to more. But the power of music to break through isolation and still have a sense of being part of humanity and part of community was very important. The technical issues of music making on the internet have certain flaws. There's a delay that musicians and music therapists who did music telehealth, and telehealth became huge during COVID. And it was true for music therapists and creative arts therapists as well. Music therapists had to learn how to overcome live music making with that little delay. But you also saw the power of musical assemblages that created these enormous multifaceted music making edited versions of community that could be engineered and create a broad sense of our connection to humanity, symbolized not only through the music, but the images of many people making music together. But to your point, Steve, about wanting to go to concerts and a kind of pent up sense of how music creates a reason and a subtext for the need to be with each other. Um, it's it's very primal in terms
Mm,
of
mm.
how we socialize, how we have a sense of, even if it's not our favorite music, not our favorite genre, it's better than being alone.
Mm.
And I think it's come roaring back as a way of allowing us to be together in a destigmatizing, apolitical way.
100%. And you even see people show up by themselves. A lot of times people are a little uncomfortable. I totally understand it. Showing up somewhere, let's say if it's a bar or restaurant, then you just want to be out around people. It's a little awkward, but not when you go to experience something music, live music. It's accepted. Hey, and you can even strike up a conversation. Hey, I love the drummers, really good. There's a commonality connected with all of that. And I consider myself pretty geeky. I never considered the music making during COVID and how that was a challenge, but absolutely. If you have a music therapist, they're working with somebody, that somebody is creating music and the therapist wants to play along with them. Yeah, that's a challenge. And we overcame a lot of that in terms of the delay. I mean, it's microseconds, milliseconds. However,
Mhm.
it's enough to set the beat off where it's hard to do.
It is. But what became very clear was that the technical challenges were minuscule compared to the rewards, which was, hey, we can still connect. We can make music, we can share time together, and telehealth became a huge way of overcoming uh, a lot of resistance to having to show up, to having to deal with the logistics of getting there. And now telehealth is an important additional way of connecting. Not a substitute, but an additional way of connecting. But I'll come back to the third key way in which music and the arts promotes health and recovery. And this has to do with achievement.
Mm.
First, we self-express. Then we connect and have a sense of belonging with others, as we've talked about just now during COVID. But what also becomes a driving force for people is to have a sense of achievement. And, achievement can take many forms, but it's self-reinforcing when you become better at something, better at playing music, better at expressing yourself, and able to have a deeper sense of connection with others and have a deeper sense of networking and belonging to community. It's self-reinforcing that, hey, I like music. I want to get into it more. It makes me feel better.
Right.
It allows me to connect with others. It helps me to feel a sense of I'm improving. I have a greater capacity for self-expression, for belonging, and the self-satisfaction of having achieved something.
I
And
want to tell
those,
you, Peter,
yeah,
we're out of time. We're coming up,
okay,
but and that's why I want to end on that point. Um,
yeah,
Fascinating talking about all of this. As a music lover, I didn't I didn't even realize a lot of what you're bringing to our attention today, and are powerful. And I'm understating the word powerful in this regard. Connection to music. Um, if somebody wants to learn more about your organization, and we're going to talk in the future about what you do and how you help others
yes,
and use the arts that way. What's the website? Somebody can learn more.
sure. Our website is Baltic Street into Action, no spaces between that.com. And we're a not-for-profit. We welcome your engagement with us. We're also a charitable contribution. and have that capacity for tax donations. So balticstreet.com, check us out.
Wonderful organization. Wonderful what you're doing, Peter. Thank you for today. Wow. Lots to think about here, but a good springboard to all of this. And I look forward to listening to music. Like things play in my head, and I'm somebody musically inclined as yourself. I'm sure you do the same exact thing.
Steve, have a great day of listening. It was great to get to know you a little bit, and I look forward to our future chats.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.